Hey there, good evening everyone, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So it's Monday night, look back at a classic rock album. Tonight we have Led Zeppelin III. Yep, the Mighty Zepp. This is my particular favorite at this point in time. I love this album. There's so much stuff going on here. A change of direction for the group, more democratic, like a lot more writing from other members of the group, not just dominated by Jimmy Page at this point, although he was the producer of the album. So before we get too far into it, go over the vitals. So this was released October the 4th, 1970. It was recorded in the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio at Headley Grange. It was stationed at Headley Grange. They also did some recording at Olympic Studios and Island Studios in London. Different sessions they did there. Album's about 43 minutes long, on Atlantic Records, and produced by Jimmy Page with executive production by Peter Grant. So, of course, featured on the album, Led Zeppelin themselves, Robert Plant on lead vocals, Jimmy Page on all kinds of different guitars, steel guitar as well, and he plays bass on, I believe, That's the Way. I think that's the song. Let me just check my notes here. Yeah, he plays bass on That's the Way. Does some backing vocals as well on one other track. You got John Paul Jones also playing bass, playing Hammond organ, all kinds of synthesizers. Well, not all kinds, but some synthesizers. He played, was something else he played, what was it? Mandolin. He played some mandolin on this album, as well as the double bass on the song Friends, My Friends, or Just Friends, I should say. And then, of course, you've got John Bonham on drums and percussion. So, this album, I like this art cover too. It's a little bit different. You've got basically 10 tracks on this album. 2 of them are, everything's recorded, and all the lyrics, of course, are written by Robert Plant, except for a couple songs which they did covers of. Although I wouldn't really call Gallows Pole a cover. It's basically they took an older song and made it their own for this song. Hats off to Roy Harper, of course. Not a Zeppelin song, but they did do it. That's the only track on the album I really am not fond of. I've never really kind of warmed up to it. I think it's kind of the sound that it gives off. It's kind of murky. It's kind of fuzzy. Maybe it's supposed to be that way. I just don't care much for it. So it starts out with the Immigrant Song. Okay, I'm going to put it down for now. So you got the Immigrant Song, which is the heavy track on the album. Basically, they went to Iceland, kind of felt this out, and decided to make this song really kind of the song that a lot of people point to when they're talking about the birth of heavy metal. This is one of those songs. They coined the phrase heavy metal, came off of this song, so really good. The second song on the album is Friends. Another really good track. I like this track a lot. Really interesting. You got Celebration Day. Excellent stuff. And you have Since I've Been Loving You. This is one of my favorite tracks on the album. Kind of very bluesy. Got lots of kind of that kind of heavy bluesy song style that you would get maybe on Zeppelins 2 and Zeppelin 1. So it's a kind of a carryover sound. It's a very pretty long song too. I think it's the longest on the album. It's about 7 minutes, maybe 7.5 minutes. Out of the Tiles, excellent tune. Another one of my favorite songs on the album. Love that song a lot. And then you get my favorite song on the album, which is Gallows Pole. It's kind of a cover of some earlier versions of this song, but I think they do the best job. And most people know this song from Led Zeppelin, of course. Great tune. Then you have Tangerine, which is the lone song that I believe the lyrics weren't written by Robert Plant. I'm not actually sure who wrote the lyrics. Maybe Jimmy Page, I'm not sure. maybe somebody out there knows, but that was the one track that he did not write on. That's the Way, another great song, maybe the most emotionally feeling song on the album. That and Tangerine and Out of the Tiles, those are the ones that really give me that kind of emotional feel for this album. Boneyard Stomp, really kind of or Bronyar Stomp, not Boneyard, I'm thinking something else. Bronyar Stomp, really kind of a kind of foot stomping song, kind of upbeat tempo, but I think of it as more of a country-ish style song. It's kind of an interesting tune. Not my particular favorite, but I don't dislike it either. And of course, hats off to Roy Harper, which I've said earlier is not really one of my favorite songs on the album. I think Gallows Pole is my favorite. I really think this shows a lot of kind of feel for heavier mixed with some acoustic stuff. So they're really in transition on this particular tune, and pretty much on the whole album is that way. I'm going to move over here so you can get a better look at it. Yeah, so I really like the acoustic part of this album. There's a lot of acoustic guitar here, a lot of different kind of sounds to the acoustic music as well. I think Jimmy Page really does show that he's not one-dimensional here. He can play stuff other than that electric stuff, which he's really good at. And I think the band as a whole wanted to change directions and show that they had more versatility with their music than they maybe showed on their first two albums as well. I think there's some really good heavy drum beats on this album, showing John Bonham, of course, is the backbone of the rhythm section here. And then you have, of course, John Paul Jones, who's really a little bit of the virtuoso here as far as all the different instruments he can bring to the table, the organ, the mandolin, and all that stuff, giving Zeppelin more of a kind of I would say versatility in their music, as opposed to just being a rhythm and blues band, which I think the first two albums demonstrated that they're very good at, but they wanted to do something more than just that. Yeah, overall I think this is a strong album. It's my particular favorite Led Zeppelin album, like I said, at this point. I just think it has more versatility to it than a lot of their other stuff. Not that their other stuff doesn't have a lot of versatility to it. I just think this one is the most versatile of their albums. It gives a little bit of a feel for some folkiness to their music as well. It's not just heavy pounding like the Immigrant Song, which is the lone track on this album that really has that. Everything else is a little bit different. So if you haven't heard this album, and I find it hard to believe if you're a Zeppelin fan, or anybody for that matter, I should give it a listen to. It's very good on headphones too. You hear a lot of stuff that you may not pick up on. I don't think the production on here is as good as you normally get with music nowadays, of course, because this is 50 some years ago, so it was probably good at the time, but and maybe some of the remastered editions are very good. This one is, I don't know if this is a remastered edition. I don't think it is, but it's got that Zeppelin sound to it, there's no doubt about it. So I really like it. I hope that you give it a listen to tonight. I already listened to it today. I'm probably going to listen to it again. Just feel like really getting into it. So anyways, I hope you like and subscribe. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And we'll be back next Monday again with another look back at a classic rock album. So have yourself a good day. Goodbye.